Why do some people, even when presented with good opportunities, sabotage their own finances without realizing it? The answer doesn't lie solely in a lack of knowledge or discipline, but in the invisible scars they carry within. Old traumas, quiet insecurities, buried fears. All of these elements shape the way someone deals with money. It's not just a matter of logic or planning. It's a silent dance between unresolved emotions and seemingly rational decisions. In this video, we're going to dive into the deepest layer of financial behavior. The one where emotional history quietly influences economic choices in the present. Many financial decisions that seem irrational at first glance have much deeper roots than one might think. Impulse buying, avoiding bank statements, postponing investments, or living in constant debt. Behaviors like these don't stem solely from a lack of financial education, but often from an unconscious attempt to cope with unresolved emotions. The problem is that, for many, money becomes an emotional mirror. It reflects unmet needs, insecurities, and beliefs formed long before the first paycheck ever arrived. Emotional traumas, especially those experienced in childhood, can leave lasting marks on how someone perceives security, self-worth, and control. A child who grew up in an environment of financial instability may, in adulthood, develop an anxious relationship with money, either spending it all quickly to avoid the feeling of scarcity, or, on the contrary, hoarding it obsessively out of fear of the future. Someone who was emotionally devalued growing up might end up seeking validation through material possessions, trying to prove their worth through consumption. Emotional insecurities also contribute to financial procrastination. Many people avoid making important decisions such as investing, renegotiating debts, or planning for the future, not out of laziness or lack of interest, but out of fear of facing their financial reality. There is a silent, almost invisible resistance that keeps the person from approaching money with clarity. This resistance is born from emotional discomfort. Dealing with finances often means revisiting frustrations, feelings of inadequacy, and the fear of failure. The result is a cycle. The more these emotions take over the decision-making process, the more poor choices are made, leading to greater frustration, more guilt, and even less confidence. The person feels trapped in a maze where every attempt to escape seems to lead back to the starting point. And in this cycle, money stops being a tool and becomes an emotional battlefield. It's fascinating how human beings, even when fully capable of reason, remain captive to impulses they don't always understand. When it comes to money, this contradiction becomes even more pronounced. Logic would suggest that everyone should pursue security, balance, and prosperity. Yet reality shows that many follow paths that lead to the exact opposite. This happens because, before it's a matter of math, money is a matter of identity. It carries projections, fears, and desires that were often formed long before the individual became aware of them. Some people associate money with the love they never received, trying to compensate for emotional absences with gifts, experiences, or excess. Others see it as a symbol of control, spending or saving in extreme ways, as if trying to dominate a world that once made them feel powerless. In this sense, money is not just a means of exchange, but an emotional language. And like any language, it can be misunderstood when the source of the feelings remains hidden. This intimate relationship between emotion and finance invites us to look beyond spreadsheets and budgets. Because true financial transformation doesn't begin merely when one learns to spend better, but when one understands why they spend. It's born from an encounter with oneself, with unresolved pain, unspoken fears, and inherited patterns that were accepted without question. It's in this space of awareness that money stops being an emotional burden and finally becomes a conscious choice. In practice, these emotional dynamics show up subtly, almost imperceptibly, yet they are deeply rooted in many people's daily lives. For example, someone who constantly spends more than they earn may actually be trying to fill an emotional void. The act of buying offers a momentary relief, a sense of control or pleasure that temporarily masks deeper feelings of inadequacy or sadness. When the effect fades, guilt sets in, but the pattern repeats. Not because the person doesn't know they're making a mistake, but because there's a pain that hasn't yet been acknowledged. In other cases, the block lies at the opposite extreme. People who have a fearful relationship with money often avoid using it, even when it's necessary. They choose to live with the bare minimum, turning down opportunities for leisure, learning, or growth, as if they're constantly preparing for an impending catastrophe. This behavior, while it may seem prudent at first glance, can be a reflection of past experiences with scarcity, where every expense was a source of tension. Over time, that fear turns into rigidity, and money, instead of serving life, begins to restrict it. There are also those who avoid any conversation about finances. When someone brings up investments, retirement, or financial organization, they change the subject, as if escaping something threatening. Often, this aversion stems from a fear of discovering that they're not doing well, or from the shame of not having learned how to manage money. It's as if the simple act of looking at their bank account triggers a wave of uncomfortable feelings that have built up over time. These behaviors are not signs of weakness or ignorance, but of an emotional story that is still asking to be understood. Behind every seemingly irrational decision, there's a narrative, a memory, a recurring pattern. And until these stories are brought into the light, money will continue to be not just a tool of exchange, but a direct reflection of the unresolved emotions that shape everyday life. When we bring all these layers together, it becomes clear that financial health isn't built solely through spreadsheets and goals, but through self-awareness and emotional courage. Poor financial decisions are often not the result of ignorance, but of wounds that have yet to heal. Traumas and insecurities shape the way each person relates to money, whether it's spending to numb the pain, saving out of fear of the future, or avoiding financial reality due to shame or guilt. The first step to transforming this relationship is to look inward with honesty and compassion. Understanding that money carries emotional meaning opens the door to a new way of dealing with it, one that is more conscious, more free, more human. It's not about removing emotions from financial decisions, but about recognizing them, understanding them, and integrating them into the decision-making process. Only then does money stop being a reflection of past pain and become a tool for building the present and the future. True change begins when we realize that taking care of our finances is, in many cases, taking care of our own story. If this content stirred something in you, maybe it's time to look at your finances with more empathy and depth. Here, each video is an invitation to reflect not just on money, but on what it reveals about who we are. If you want to continue this journey of self-awareness and financial transformation, subscribe to the channel and allow yourself to move forward, one step at a time, with consciousness and clarity.